It has been a busy day for the Minnesota Twins transaction wire. It started with Royce Lewis being optioned to AAA St. Paul. Not a super surprising outcome, but not great overall. Then we learned that the Twins were DFAing reliever Justin Topa in a bullpen that is already bad and already needs arms. Now, we most recently have an update on Ryan Jeffers, and let me tell you, this one hurts. What started off as a seemingly inconsequential play has now had major ramifications on Ryan Jeffers and the Minnesota Twins season, as it was announced that Ryan Jeffers broke his hamate bone in that at-bat. And that's the bone that runs right along your pinky. Typically, when baseball players break that bone, it's because they were hit by a pitch in that area. But again, in this case, it was just a kind of random foul tip that ended up in a broken bat. According to Twins Daily's own Lucas Seehafer, our resident medical and sports science expert, we can expect Ryan Jeffers to be out for the next 6 to 8 weeks with this hamate bone injury. That timeline is going to put him roughly around coming back around the trade deadline, if not into August, which is just terrible timing for the Twins, but also it's just terrible news for Ryan Jeffers. Jeffers has been maybe the lone offensive bright spot for the Minnesota Twins, and he's having a career year. As of today, he has a 949 OPS with 7 home runs, and that equates to a 165 WRC plus. And what that tells us is that he has produced 65% better than the average hitter in all of Major League Baseball. In recent years, Jeffers has gone from a guy who prioritized power over contact to a guy in 2025 who prioritized contact over power. But here in 2026, he's found a phenomenal balance where he has as many walks as strikeouts so far this season. So while the injury is a short-term injury and not one that is going to impact his career trajectory or anything like that, at 29 years old, having a career season, and in the last year of arbitration before he enters his first round of free agency, this is just a tough blow for our catcher. But that goes both ways. For the Minnesota Twins, it's been speculated, even going back into the offseason, that because Ryan Jeffers is on an expiring contract and they signed Victor Caratini, which is now looking like a very important signing, that he was going to be used as trade bait at some point, either last offseason or obviously he's now still on the team, so at this trade deadline. Now, again, his timeline is going to be that of late July, early, mid-August, somewhere in there. And so the timing might work out that he will be returning for a potential playoff push for another team. But regardless, again, from the Minnesota Twins perspective, this timing just couldn't be much worse, because even if it is, guaranteed that by late July, we have a very clear timeline of when Ryan Jeffers is going to come back, it still is going to diminish his value just a little bit for any team who might be interested in his services. So what does this mean for the Minnesota Twins on the field over the next 6 to 8 weeks? Well, they called up Alex Jackson from AAA St. Paul. You might remember he was acquired this winter from the Baltimore Orioles in a trade that sent Peyton Eales to the Orioles. But what we're really going to get is a heavy dose of Victor Caratini in the starting lineup, where Alex Jackson is just kind of filling in maybe 2-3 times a week or so. And obviously at the plate, this is a major blow. Although Victor Caratini historically has been a serviceable hitter, so far in 2026, he has a 530 OPS and a 57 WRC plus. So he's been pretty abysmal at the plate. And then we bring up Alex Jackson, who has done fairly well with AAA St. Paul, although overall throughout his minor league and short stints in Major League Baseball, he definitely has not shown that he can be a serviceable hitter at the major league levels. So in essence, we went from having maybe the best hitting catcher in all of baseball to having a tandem that might be the worst set of hitting catchers in all of baseball. On the other side of the ball, I don't think we'll see any significant drop-off. Jeffers had actually been pretty serviceable so far this year behind the plate. His defense has always been a little bit of a question mark, but it's been solid this year. Victor Caratini, when he was brought in, kind of the same thing. Like, defense is not great, but it's pretty solid. And then Alex Jackson himself profiles as kind of a glove-first catcher, but that's not to say that he's a great defensive catcher, but again, just solid and serviceable. So again, I don't anticipate any major drop-off defensively, but we're definitely going to feel the impact on the offensive side of the ball. So that's all to say that what's already been a long season for the Minnesota Twins just got longer today. And all of that news, the Royce Lewis news, the Justin Topa news, the Ryan Jeffers news, all of that came out before we recently learned that Emmanuel Rodriguez is also going to miss a couple of months with a thumb injury himself. So just not a great day in Twins territory, but what do you think the Twins will end up doing with Ryan Jeffers? Do you think he's going to have any trade value at the deadline, assuming that he hasn't really returned to Major League Baseball quite yet and he still is kind of in that rehab phase? Let us know what you think in the comments and make sure you stay tuned to twinsdaily.com for all your Minnesota Twins updates.